The chamber was so large that Dahayan could barely see the far walls. Thousands of alien beings sat in curved rows that rose up like a mountain around him. Some had wings, some had scales, and some looked like nothing he could describe. All of them were staring at him with eyes that held no warmth. Dayan stood alone on the speaking platform. His dark suit felt too tight. Behind him, Sunumi sat with the other human advisors, but they were not allowed to speak. Only he could address the Galactic Council, and he knew that nothing he said would matter. They had already decided. Speaker Thalen opened his beak. The Avon's feathers were pure white, marking his age and authority. Ambassador Dehan of Earth, you stand accused of leading your species in violation of 17 galactic expansion protocols. How does humanity answer? Dahayan took a breath. We answer that we have broken no laws. We colonized unclaimed worlds. We harmed no other species. We simply refuse to change who we are to fit your rules. A wave of angry sounds filled the chamber, clicking, hissing, and sounds that human ears could barely process. Thatan raised one wing for silence. You colonized 47 worlds in 200 years. Another council member said, this one was reptilian with black scales and yellow eyes. No species has expanded so aggressively since the plague wars. You refuse to modify your biology to suit designated planets. You bring weapons everywhere. You compete rather than cooperate. You are a danger. Hyan felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. We adapt with technology because that is our way. We carry weapons because the galaxy taught us to be cautious when we first arrived. We compete because competition drives us to be better. These things do not make us evil. Sunumi touched a tablet and images appeared on the screens around the chamber, charts and graphs that showed human colonies thriving, trade increasing, and zero conflicts with other species. The evidence shows that human presence has benefited the regions we inhabit, she said quietly to Dahayan, but the council was not interested in evidence. One by one, species that had encountered humans stood to testify. They spoke of humans who refused to accept lower positions in mixed workplaces, of human traders who negotiated too aggressively, of human children who asked too many questions and showed no proper respect for elder species. They do not know their place, one alien said. They have been in the stars for only 200 years, yet they act as if they are our equals. Dayan's hands became fists. We are your equals. We are a sovereign species. We have the same right to exist in this galaxy as anyone else. Thurin's eyes narrowed. You have the right to exist, human, but you do not have the right to threaten the order that has kept this galaxy peaceful for 10,000 years. The council has debated this matter for 3 cycles. We have reviewed all evidence. We have heard from 800 species. Now we vote. The chamber fell silent. Dahayan watched as lights appeared above each council member's seat. Green for humanity, red against. The lights began to appear, and Dayan's heart sank. Red, red, red. A few scattered greens, but an ocean of red spreading across the chamber like blood. The vote is counted, announced. 847 species vote for banishment. 152 vote against. The measure passes. Humanity is hereby exiled from all council space. You will be relocated beyond the void barrier. You have one solar cycle to evacuate all human settlements, any humans remaining after. That deadline will be removed by force. Sunumi gasped behind him, the other human advisors began shouting protests. But their voices were lost in the noise. Of the council, Dei stepped forward. The void barrier. That region is deadly. No species can survive there, you are. Sentencing 12 billion humans to death. The void is harsh, but it is not occupied, Thalarin said without emotion. You claim your species is adaptable, now. You will prove it if you are as strong as you believe you will survive. If not, then the galaxy will be safer. Let the void have them. No species returns from that darkness. The director of security, a massive reptilian named Vekmal, activated a hologram. It showed the void barrier region of space that glowed with strain. Colors on every sensor. Our ships cannot pass through, our shields fail, our people die. Whatever exists beyond that barrier is unknown. You wanted freedom from our rules, humans. Now you have it. Dean looked up at the thousands of alien faces. Some looked satisfied, some looked guilty, a few looked sad, but none of them spoke in humanity's defense. Now that the vote was done, he thought about his parents who had been among the first humans to see an alien world. He thought about his daughter who was 7 years old and loved to draw pictures of stars. He thought about the 12 billion humans who were about to lose everything because the galaxy feared what they might become. You are making a mistake, Dayan said. Quietly, his voice somehow carried through the enormous chamber. You see us as a threat because we will not bow, because we will not change who we are to make you comfortable, because we remind you that new things can rise to challenge old orders. You are correct, Thalen said. That is exactly why you must go. Dayun smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. You think you are punishing us. You think you are removing a threat, but you are wrong. You have not banished us. You have freed us. Out there beyond your laws and your chains, we will become something you cannot imagine. And one day you will realize that exile was not your solution. It was your biggest mistake. He turned and walked toward the exit, his advisors following. Behind him, the council chamber erupted in debate, but Dei did not look back. Sunumi caught up to him in the corridor. What do we do now? We save our people, Dayan said, and we prepare for the void. The alarm woke Juwin from another nightmare. He sat up in his captain's chair and looked at the screens showing 3,000 ships moving in formation. Each ship carried millions of humans in frozen sleep. Each ship represented hope and terror in equal measure. Captain, we are 6 hours from the barrier, his second officer said. All ships report ready. But the readings ahead are worse than expected. Juan rubbed his face. He had not slept well in 3 months, not since the evacuation began. Show me. The main screen displayed the void barrier. It looked like space itself was broken there. Colors that should not exist swirled in patterns that hurt to watch. Energy readings spiked and dropped in random chaos. Every sensor said the same thing: death waited beyond. Are modifications installed on all ships? Jawan asked. Yes, Captain. Every ship has the new shields and hull reinforcement, but she says there is only a 60% chance they will work. 60%. Jawan thought about the millions of people sleeping in the cargo holds. 60% meant 4 out of 10 ships might not survive. That was more than 4 billion people who might die in the next few Hours. 3 months ago, he had been a transport captain running cargo between human colonies. Then the council made their vote and everything changed. Bo Young, the colonial administrator from New Seoul, had drafted every ship captain into service. There was no time for training, no time for preparation, just desperate rush to save as many people as possible. Juwon remembered the panic. Families torn apart as they tried to reach evacuation points, people fighting to get on ships. The lucky ones made it into cryosleep. The unlucky ones never left their worlds. The worst memory was watching the council's punishment for those who resisted. 2 colonies had refused to evacuate. They said they would rather die on their own worlds than flee into the void. The council sent warships. J1 had watched on long-range sensors as orbital bombardment turned New Busalson and Harmony Station into clouds of debris. 4 million people gone in minutes. After that, no one resisted anymore. Captain, incoming message from engineer. Hi. A woman's face appeared on a smaller screen. Hi looked exhausted with dark circles under her eyes. She was only 32. But the stress had aged her. Captain Juan, final report on the shield modifications. I have done everything possible, but I cannot promise they will hold the void. Radiation operates on principles we do not fully understand. Will we make it? Jaewan asked. Hay was quiet for a moment. Some of us will. Maybe most of us. That is the best I can offer. Then it will have to be enough. Thank you for your work, engineer. After she disconnected, Juwon opened a private channel to Kang Soo, the military strategist who had organized the defense forces. Are your ships ready? As ready as we can. B. Kang Soo replied. We have hidden the weapons and manufacturing equipment throughout the civilian fleet. Council's inspectors never found them. When we reach the other side, we will have what we need to defend ourselves. If we reach the other side, we will. Captain, humans are too stubborn to die easily. Juan wished he had that confidence. He looked at the sensor displays showing the massive human fleet, ships from every colony, every nation, every culture, rich and poor, military and civilian, all mixed together in a desperate exodus. This was not just evacuation. This was the end of everything humans had built in the galaxy over 2 centuries, all ships. This is Captain J, one of the Defiant Hope. He broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. We are approaching the void barrier. Activate shield modifications, seal all compartments, secure all cargo and pray to whatever gods you believe in. Fleet began final preparations. Jaewan watched the distance countdown. 500,000 km, 400,000, 300,000. Captain, Council ships are maintaining position at the boundary, the sensor officer reported. They are making sure we go through. Jaewan saw them on the display, 24 Council warships. Weapons powered up, forming a wall behind the human fleet. They were not there to help, they were there to ensure humanity went into exile and did not turn back. 100,000 km, the void filled the forward screens now, a churning mass of impossible energies. Juan felt his hands shake. He gripped the armrests of his chair to keep them steady. All ships report ready, Captain. Then let us see what waits beyond, Jaewan said. All ships forward at full speed. Stay in formation, and if your ship starts to fail, transmit all data before you go. Future generations need to know what happened here. The Defiant Hope accelerated toward the barrier and 3,000 ships followed. The impact was like diving into fire. Alarms screamed as shields fought against energies that should not exist. The ship shook so hard that Jaewon's teeth rattled, screens flickered and died. Then came back online showing chaotic data, hull integrity at 70%, shields failing on decks 12 through 15. Radiation levels critical. Jaewon held on. As the ship bucked and twisted through the chaos, he could see other ships on the sensors. Some were holding together. Others were breaking apart there. Shields collapsing under the impossible strain. He watched as the transport knew Dawn simply vanished from the displays. Its shield generator overloading in a flash of light. Keep forward, thrust at maximum, Jaewon shouted over the noise. We have to get through. The crossing felt like it lasted hours, but the timer said it was only 90 seconds. 90 seconds of hell, and then suddenly the shaking stopped. The alarms quieted. Displays stabilized. They were through. Jaewon looked at the main screen and saw space that looked wrong, stars that were too dim, nebulae that glowed with sick colors, and behind them, the barrier they had just crossed, sealing them off from everything they had known. Damn it. Report, Jaewon said quietly. Hull breaches on 7 decks. Shield generators are burned out. We will need weeks of repairs, but we are alive. Captain, fleet status. The sensor officer worked for several minutes before answering. 2543. Ships made it through, Captain. 457. Ships were lost in the crossing. The bridge fell silent. 457 ships, roughly 2 billion people dead. Jaewon opened the fleet-wide channel. His voice was steady, though his heart felt like ice. This is Captain Hwan, to all surviving ships. We have made it through the barrier. Begin rescue operations for any escape pods. Begin damage assessment and begin looking for a place we can call home. He switched to a tight beam transmission aimed back at the barrier, knowing it would be the last message the galaxy would receive from humanity for a very long time. This is Captain Hwan of the human vessel Defiant Hope to the Galactic Council. We have crossed into the void. You have taken our colonies, killed millions of our people, and driven us into this darkness. You thought you were removing a threat. You thought you were making yourselves safe, but you were wrong. We are going dark now. When we return, and we will return, it will not be to beg for acceptance. Remember that you did this. Remember that you made us into whatever we become. He ended the transmission and looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. We survived the barrier, Jaewon said. Now we learned to survive the void. Tae Yang had never seen Earth. He had never breathed air that was not recycled. He had never felt natural sunlight. He was born in the void as his parents were, as his grandparents were. The stories of green forests and blue oceans meant nothing to him. This was his home, the mining station called Deep Harbor, floating in the darkness between dead stars. Shift supervisor, we have a rich vein on level 40, one of his workers reported. The void crystal concentration is higher than anything we found before. Taeyang moved through the tunnel, his tall frame easily navigating the low ceilings that would have made his ancestors uncomfortable. His skin had the gray tint that all Voidorn carried, and his eyes could see heat patterns in The darkness, he was fourth generation, and he was perfectly adapted to this harsh place. The void crystal glowed with a soft, purple light. It grew in patterns that seemed almost alive, spreading through the asteroid's core like veins. When his ancestors first discovered it, they had thought it was just another mineral. Then they learned it could power shields that worked in the void. It could store energy in ways that broke normal physics. It was the reason humanity had survived. Mark this location, Taeyong said, and increase safety protocols. We do not know what high concentrations might do. Back in his office, Taeyong reviewed the production reports. Deep Harbor was one of 200 mining operations scattered throughout the void. Together they fed the factories that built ships, the farms that grew food and artificial light, and the cities that housed 10 billion humans who had never known any other life. His screen chimed with an incoming call. Nari's face appeared and Taeyong smiled. The geneticist looked excited, which was rare for someone who spent her days studying human DNA. Tong, the latest results are confirmed, Nari said. The modifications are stable across all test groups. Void-born humans are not just adapted, we are evolved. Higher radiation resistance, better oxygen efficiency, enhanced reflexes, improved vision in multiple spectrums, and it is all genetic now. Our children will be born this way. Is that good or bad? Tiang asked. Nari paused. It means we are no longer the same species as the humans who were banished. We are something new. The council wanted to kill humanity, but instead they created something stronger, Taeyong thought. About that, his great-grandfather had been on one of the ships that crossed the barrier. The old man had lived to be 90, always talking about the world he lost, but Taeyong felt no loss. The void was all he needed. His screen chimed again. This time it was a priority message from Commander Wu Jin. The military leader's face was serious as always. Supervisor Taeyong, increase void crystal production by 30%. The shipyards need more material. We are expanding the fleet. Expanding. Commander, we already have the largest fleet in human history. What do we need more ships for? Wu Jin's eyes were hard. Because our scouts have reported something concerning, and because Yuna is calling an assembly. Check your messages. Taeyong found the summons waiting. Every sector leader, every station commander, every significant figure in the Void Confederacy was ordered to attend. This had only happened twice before in his lifetime, and both times had changed everything. The assembly took place in virtual space, since gathering in person was impossible across such distances. Taeyong put on his neural interface and suddenly stood in a vast chamber that did not physically exist. Around him, hundreds of other humans appeared, their avatars filling the space. Yuna stood at the center. She was old, nearly 80, but her mind was still sharp. She had been part of the council that organized the Void Confederacy 40 years ago, when humans finally stopped thinking of themselves as exiles and started thinking of themselves as citizens of a new nation. Thank you all for coming, Yuna said. Her voice carried to everyone despite the impossible size of the virtual space. I have called this assembly because we have reached a turning point. 100 years ago, the Galactic Council threw us into the darkness. They expected us to die. Instead, we built a civilization that surpasses anything we had before. We have 200 colonies, a fleet of 500, warships and technologies that the Council cannot imagine. We are no longer refugees, we are no longer exiles, we are the Void Confederacy, and it is time. The galaxy knows we exist. The chamber erupted in debate. Some voices supported Yuna, others urged caution. Taeyang listened to them argue about whether to contact the galaxy. Beyond the barrier, we do not owe them anything, one commander shouted. They tried to kill us, but they failed, Yuna replied calmly. And now we are strong enough that we do not need to hide. I am not suggesting we rejoin the Council. I am suggesting we establish ourselves as an independent power. We send probes through the barrier to observe. We gather intelligence. We let them know that humanity did not die. We survived and we thrived. Commander Wujin spoke next. Our scouts have already sent probes through the barrier. They are in stealth mode, observing the galaxy beyond. What they have found is interesting. The Council still exists, but they face new challenges. Their expansion has slowed. Their unity is weakening, and they never expected anything to come back from the void. What about the ancient ruins? Someone asked. Should we mention those? The chamber went quiet. Tiang knew about the ruins. Everyone did. 5 years ago, exploration teams had found massive structures deep in the void on worlds that had been dead for thousands of years. The ruins were older than any galactic civilization. They showed evidence of incredible technology, and they showed evidence of a catastrophe. Yuna nodded slowly. The ruins are a mystery we are still studying. Yajin's archaeological teams are making progress, but we have more questions than answers. What we know is this: another civilization lived in the void before us. They were advanced, possibly more advanced than we are, and something destroyed them. Then why are we safe? Taeyang asked. Maybe we are not, Wu Jin said. Maybe we are just too new to be noticed yet, or maybe whatever killed them is gone. Either way, we need to be prepared. Yuna raised her hand for silence. I am not asking permission. I am informing you of a decision. The Confederacy will send stealth probes to observe the galaxy. We will gather intelligence. We will learn what has changed in the century since we were banished, and we will decide our next steps based on what we find. Humanity hid in the darkness for 100 years. It is time we stepped into the light on our own terms. The vote was called. 70% agreed. The Void Confederacy would reach out to the galaxy, not as beggars seeking to return, but as a new power announcing its existence. After the assembly ended, Taeyang removed his neural interface and sat in his office thinking. He looked at the pictures on his wall, his family, his friends, his workers, all of them born in the void, all of them stronger than the humans who came before. Nari called him again. What do you think will happen when they find out we survived? I think they will be scared. Taeyang said. The Council banished us because they feared we would not follow their rules. Now they will learn that their punishment made us stronger. They will realize they created their own nightmare. Good, Nari said, and there was steel in her voice. Let them be scared. Let them wonder what we became. They earned it. Taeyang looked out the window at the void, stretching endlessly in all directions. Somewhere beyond the barrier, the galaxy continued without humanity. Soon they would learn that humanity had continued without them, and They would learn that the void had not swallowed humanity. Instead, humanity had claimed it. Ji-Hoon's stealth ship drifted in silence, its void crystal hull making it nearly invisible to normal sensors. He had been watching the battle for 3 hours now, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The swarm had arrived without warning. One day, a council patrol simply vanished near the galactic rim. The next day, an entire colony went dark. By the end of the week, 10 worlds were dead, their populations consumed down to the last microbe. Through his ship's advanced sensors, Ji-Hoon watched as the swarm's vessels tore through a council defense fleet. The alien ships were biological, grown rather than built, and they regenerated damage faster than the council weapons could inflict it. When a swarm ship was destroyed, it simply broke into smaller vessels that continued attacking. Observer 1-2. Confederacy Command. Ji-Hoon transmitted through the quantum link, confirming reports. The swarm is real, and it is winning. Council forces are in full retreat from Sector 7. Estimated casualties exceed 200 billion across 20 worlds. Mio's voice came back calm. Despite the terrible news, the battle strategist had been studying every scrap of data the observer sent. Continue monitoring. Observer 1. We need to understand their tactics. How are they spreading so fast? They do not stop to occupy territory. Ji-Hoon replied. They consume everything, biological and technological, then move to the next target. They are not conquering, they are feeding. Ji-Hoon adjusted his sensors to track the swarm's movements. The patterns were clear. The swarm was moving straight line toward the galaxy's core, toward the most densely populated regions. The council's weapons barely slowed them down. His screen flashed with a priority alert. A new transmission from council space broadcast on all frequencies. Ji-Hoon's translation software processed it immediately. It was Speaker Thalarin, the ancient Avan who had sentenced humanity to exile 2 centuries ago. He looked far older than Ji-Hoon remembered. From the historical recordings, his white feathers were dull, his eyes dim with age and fear. This is Speaker Thalarin of the Galactic Council. To any who can hear this message, the Council faces extinction. An extragalactic force, which we call the Swarm, has invaded our space. We have lost 200 worlds in 4 months. Our weapons are ineffective. Our defenses are failing. The Swarm cannot be reasoned with and cannot be stopped. If there are any powers in this galaxy or beyond who can help us, we plead for aid. We will accept any terms. We will pay any price. Please, if anyone can hear this, help us. The transmission ended. Ji-Hoon sat in his dark cockpit, processing what he had just heard. The mighty Galactic Council, the power that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, was begging for help. Did you receive that transmission? Mo asked. Yes, they are desperate. Good. Return to Confederacy space immediately. Yuna is calling an emergency council. This changes everything. Ji-Hoon engaged his void drives and slipped away into the darkness, leaving the dying council worlds behind. The council met in the Great Hall on Unity Station, the capital of the Void Confederacy. So-Hun stood among the observers, watching as the leaders debated humanity's response. She was a diplomat and a descendant of the ambassador who had been banished so long ago. She carried her ancestor's name and his burden. Why should we help them? One commander demanded. They threw us into the void to die. They killed 4 million of our people to enforce their sentence. Let them face extinction. Let them learn what it feels like to be powerless. Revenge is satisfying, so Hyan said, stepping forward, but it is also foolish. If the swarm destroys the council, where will it go next? The void is part of this galaxy. Eventually they will come for us too. Let them try. Commander Wu Jin said, our weapons are superior. Our ships are faster. We are not the council. Mino activated a holographic display. It showed the swarm's advance. World after world falling. I have analyzed every engagement. The swarm is not intelligent in the way we understand. It is a hive mind operating on instinct, but that makes it predictable. And I have found a weakness. Everyone leaned forward. Men manipulated the display, showing sensor data from the swarm ships. Their biology is incredibly efficient at adapting to normal space conditions. They can survive almost anything the council throws at them, but their adaptation has limits. Specifically, they cannot adapt to void radiation. How do you know? Yuna asked. Because the swarm has never entered the void, Mio replied. They came from outside the galaxy. They have consumed hundreds of council worlds, but they avoid the barrier completely. They go around it. That is not coincidence. That is fear. The council chamber erupted in discussion. So Hyan saw the shift happening. They were no longer debating whether to help, but how to use this advantage. Our weapons are based on void crystal technology, Wu Jin said. Slowly, if the swarm cannot adapt to void radiation, then our torpedoes and energy weapons would be devastating against them. But do we want to reveal our capabilities? Another leader asked. The council does not know what we have become. Once we show them, we lose our greatest advantage. Surprise. So Hyan spoke again. They are dying. They are desperate. This is our chance to negotiate from a position of total strength. We help them, but only on our terms. Full recognition as an independent power, territorial rights to the void and surrounding sectors, formal apology for the banishment, and a permanent seat at the council as equals, not subjects. They will never agree, someone scoffed. They will agree to anything if the alternative is extinction, Yuna said. The question is whether we can live with ourselves if we let billions die because of old grudges. The vote was closed, but it passed. The Confederacy would help the council, but only after extracting major concessions. Il-sung volunteered to cross the barrier and make contact. He was not Voidorn, but one of the rare humans from a neutral world who had joined the Confederacy decades ago. He had friends in council space who might listen. His ship crossed the barrier at a known stable point, one the Confederacy had been using for their stealth probes. When he emerged, council sensors detected him immediately. Within minutes, he was surrounded by warships, their weapons powered but not firing. Unidentified vessel, you have emerged from the void barrier. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed, came the challenge. Il-sung opened all communication channels. This is Il-sung, representing the Void Confederacy. I am human. Yes, humans still exist. Yes, we survived the banishment. And yes, we are here to discuss helping you against the swarm, but only if you agree to our terms. The silence that followed lasted for nearly a minute. Then a different voice came through, old and strained. This is Speaker Thalen. Please dock with our station immediately. We will hear your terms. Ilsung was escorted to the Council's Emergency Command Center. When he entered, he saw dozens of alien leaders, many of whom had voted for humanity's banishment 2 centuries ago. They looked at him with shock and fear. He was tall with gray skin and eyes that saw in spectrums they could not. He looked human, but also somehow more than human. You survived, whispered. How? Because humans are adaptable, Ilsung said. You taught us that we could not rely on the galaxy for safety, so we learned to rely on ourselves. Now the galaxy needs us. How strange fate is. He presented the Confederacy's terms: recognition, territory, apology, equality. The council leaders looked at each other, and Ilong saw their struggle. Pride against desperation, history against survival. Thalen spoke finally. We accept all terms. Please help us. Swarm is approaching the core worlds. If they reach there, 3 trillion people die. Ilsung nodded. Commander Wu Jin is mobilizing the Void Fleet, 500 warships. With Void crystal weapons, they will arrive within 2 weeks. Until then, evacuate as many civilians as possible from the swarm's path. When we arrive, follow our tactical instructions. Exactly, we know how to fight in conditions others cannot survive. That is what you taught us. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Speaker, my great-grandfather was killed when your forces destroyed New Busausen. For refusing to evacuate, I have carried that anger my whole life, but I am choosing to help you anyway. Not because you deserve it, but because billions of innocent people do not deserve to die for your mistakes. Remember that when this is over. Remember that humanity saved you. Ilsung left the council chamber and returned to his ship. Behind him, the council scrambled to prepare for the arrival of the species they had tried to erase. The Void Fleet was coming, and the galaxy would finally see what humanity had become. Fleet Admiral Jun-Ho watched as 500 human warships emerged from the void barrier in perfect formation. The crossing had been easier than expected. 2 centuries of experience had taught humanity how to navigate what had once been impossible. Through the forward screens, he saw the Council's remaining defense fleet. Their ships were damaged, their formations scattered. They had been fighting a losing war for months, and it showed. When the Council's sensors detected the human fleet, there was a moment of confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like hope mixed with fear. All ships, this is Admiral Jun-Ho. Maintain formation, power weapons, but do not lock targets. We are here to help, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Communications. Open a channel to Council Command. A reptilian admiral appeared on the screen. His scales were scarred and his eyes held the exhaustion of someone who had watched too many worlds die. Human fleet, this is Admiral Kivan of Council Defense. We acknowledge your arrival. Speaker Thalen has authorized full cooperation. Your commander, Wu Jin, transmitted tactical plans 2 days ago. We are ready to follow your instructions. Good, Jun-Ho replied. We have analyzed the swarm's patterns. They are strong, but they are predictable. We will use that against them. Begin evacuations of sectors 4 through 7. Pull all military assets back to the defensive line we designated, and prepare your people to see weapons they have never encountered before. The Council fleet began moving into position. Junho reviewed the tactical displays with his bridge crew. The swarm was approaching the core worlds, a massive force of biological vessels that had already consumed 300 worlds, but they had never faced void crystal weapons before. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from one of our fighter squadrons, his communications officer reported. Squadron leader Yunji requests permission to begin reconnaissance of the swarm's forward elements. Junho smiled slightly. Yunji was one of the best pilots in the fleet. Aggressive and brilliant. Permission granted. Tell her not to engage until we have full tactical picture. Yunji's fighter squadron consisted of 30 small craft, each powered by void crystal engines that made them faster and more maneuverable than anything the galaxy had seen. They streaked toward the swarm's position, their stealth systems making them nearly impossible to detect. Admiral, this is Yunji. I have visual on the swarm, sending data now. Tactical display updated with real-time information. The swarm vessels were massive organic ships that looked more like sea creatures than spacecraft. They moved in coordinated groups, their formation suggesting some kind of shared intelligence. Behind them, devastated worlds glowed with the fires of recent consumption. They are heading for the colony world Haven's Gate, Yunji reported. Population 40 billion. Evacuation is not complete. All ships move to intercept. Junho ordered. We make our stand here. If Haven's Gate falls, the swarm has a clear path to the core. Battle formation Delta, prepare void crystal torpedoes. The human fleet accelerated, moving with a precision that surprised the watching Council forces. Years of training in the harsh conditions of the void had created a military unlike any other. Every crew member was voidborn, adapted to conditions that would kill normal humans, trained to fight in environments others could not survive. Swarm vessels are detecting our approach, the sensor officer reported. They are changing formation to engage. Count is 2,000 vessels, 2,000 against 500. The numbers should have been terrifying, but Junho felt only calm. Focus. Numbers meant nothing if your weapons were ineffective. All ships weapons free. Target the largest vessels first. Show them what voidborn humans can do. The first volley of void crystal torpedoes streak across space. They glowed with purple energy, and when they hit the swarm vessels, the effect was devastating. The biological ships simply came apart at the molecular level. Their regenerative abilities useless against weapons that unraveled the fundamental bonds holding them together. Direct hits on all targets. The weapons officer shouted, "Swarm vessels are not regenerating, they are dying." The swarm responded, launching waves of smaller organisms that acted as missiles. The human point defense systems, also powered by void crystal, destroyed them by the thousands. The swarm's normal tactics, overwhelming force and rapid regeneration, were completely ineffective. Yunji's fighters dove into the swarm formation, their void crystal cannons cutting through biological armor like it did not exist. "This is too easy," she reported. "They cannot adapt to our weapons. We are tearing them apart." But Junho saw something the others missed. All ships pull back. "Something is wrong, Admiral." "We are winning," his second officer protested. "Exactly. They should be retreating. Instead, they are still advancing. They are sacrificing themselves," which means the sensors screamed a warning from behind the swarm's forward elements. Something massive was emerging, a vessel 10 times larger than any they had seen, glowing with sickly light. "What is that?" someone whispered. Yejin's voice came through on Junho's private channel. The archaeologist had been studying the ancient ruins in the void for years. "Admiral, that matches the descriptions from the ancient warnings we found. That is a swarm queen, the hive mind's core. If we destroy it, the entire swarm loses coordination. Then we target that," Junho said. "All ships concentrate fire on the large vessel. Maximum power." The human fleet unleashed everything they had: void crystal torpedoes, energy beams, kinetic weapons, all focused on the massive queen vessel. The biological ships' shields flared, trying to absorb the damage, but void radiation was poisoned to its biology. Slowly the shields failed, but the queen was not trying to fight. It was running away from the human fleet, away from the council worlds. It was heading toward the void barrier. "Admiral, if that thing reaches the void, it will find our colonies," Sang Woo reported from his ground forces command ship. "We have to stop it here." Junho made a decision he knew would cost lives. "All ships pursue course. We stay with it all the way to the barrier, if necessary." The chase lasted 3 hours. The queen was fast, but the human ships were faster. They hammered it with weapons, tearing away at its hull, killing the smaller vessels it spawned to defend itself. Behind them, the rest of the swarm fleet was in chaos without the queen's coordination. Council forces were finally pushing them back. They reached the barrier and the queen began to cross. It was adapting, somehow finding a way to survive the crossing. In minutes it would be through, and then it would lead the swarm into the void. "No," Junho said quietly. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships fall back to minimum safe distance. Prepare void crystal overload. We are sealing the barrier, Admiral. That will destroy everything within 1,000 km. His second officer protested. "Including our ships if we do not pull back far enough." "I know, but if we do not stop the queen here, the swarm will infest the void. Every human colony, every station, every world we built will be consumed. We end this now." The fleet pulled back. Junho watched as his weapons officer armed the overload sequence. 30 ships moved forward, volunteers all, each carrying enough void crystal in their reactors to tear a hole in space itself. "This is Captain Hun Woo," one of the volunteer ship commanders transmitted. "It has been an honor to serve with you. Admiral, tell our families we died protecting them." "I will," Junho promised. "Your names will be remembered forever." The 30 ships accelerated toward the queen, which was halfway through the barrier. At the last moment they overloaded their void crystal reactors simultaneously. The explosion was unlike anything in recorded history. Space itself seemed to scream as the barrier collapsed inward, creating a massive gravitational anomaly. The queen vessel was torn apart along with anything else caught in the blast radius. When the energy finally dissipated, the barrier had changed. Where there had been a wide, stable crossing point, now there was only a narrow, turbulent passage that would be almost impossible to navigate. "Admiral, the queen is destroyed," the sensor officer confirmed. "The swarm forces in council space are breaking apart without coordination. The council fleet is mopping them up." Junho looked at the display showing where 30 ships and their crews had been. 3,000 people dead, but the void was safe. Humanity was safe. Send a message. To Council Command, Junho said, the Swarm Queen is destroyed. The threat is eliminated. We are returning to the void. 10 years later, Sohyan stood in the same council chamber where her ancestor, Dahayan, had been sentenced to exile. But she was not there as a defendant. She was there as Prime Minister of the Void Confederacy, an equal among equals. The chamber had changed. There were new faces, new species. Thalen had died 5 years ago, but before he passed, he had formally apologized. For the banishment, the Council had recognized the Confederacy's sovereignty. Trade agreements had been signed. Humanity controlled the void and several surrounding sectors, but humans remained separate. New passages through the barrier had been established, but they were controlled by Confederacy forces. Humans could visit Council space if they wished, but few did. The void was their home now. Prime Minister Sohyan, the new Council Speaker, said, "We thank you again for your presence. The Council wishes to discuss expanded trade agreements." Sohyan smiled. "Of course, Speaker, but let me be clear about something. 200 years ago, this Council tried to destroy humanity because you feared we would not follow your rules. You banished us into darkness, expecting us to die. Instead, you taught us the most important lesson we ever learned. We do not need the galaxy. We do not need your approval. We are strong enough to stand alone." She paused, looking around at the thousands of alien faces. "You tried to exile us into darkness. Instead, you taught us to become the light that holds it back. The void is not a prison, it is our fortress, and as long as we guard the barrier, as long as we maintain our strength, this galaxy will be safe from threats you cannot imagine. That is the gift we give you. Not because you deserve it, but because we choose to be better than you were." So Hun left the chamber to respectful silence. Behind her, the Council understood a new truth. Humanity was not a threat to be contained. Humanity was a guardian they could not afford to lose. And in the void, 10 billion humans lived and thrived in conditions that would kill anyone else, proud of what they had built from banishment, ready to defend their darkness from any who would threaten it. The galaxy had tried to destroy them. Instead, it had made them stronger than anyone could have imagined.